What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Cinema Trip Reviews. I am Wyatt, and this week I am joined by none other than Brett Parker from Dissect That Film. How you doing today, Brett?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on again.
Yeah, no problem, man. For anybody who hasn't seen it, we actually went and we did a review of The Matrix, like 8 months ago, almost a year ago now. And, it is the time, it is the 20th anniversary of The Matrix Reloaded. We are actually recording it on the day the movie released, as of right now, which is pretty crazy. I didn't plan that, but it kind of worked out that way. This was your first time seeing The Matrix Reloaded, correct?
Yes, like I stated in the last one, I had only ever seen The Matrix once before
That's crazy,
that
man.
review. So yeah, I am going into this fresh. I know, I mean, I've seen videos and all that stuff about this franchise to kind of
Hmm.
I'm not going to say I understand this franchise at all, but
No.
yeah, I know of this franchise pretty well, even though I've only seen the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I was just telling you before we started here is like I've watched these movies so many different times, and I mean the first one, I think it works so well as like a standalone film. You didn't really need these other two, now three, I guess, other movies.
Right.
But this one, after even watching it so many times, it gets to a point where it's like I have no idea what's going on, especially like when you get towards the end where you have the architect and everything. I
Right.
still I watched a couple videos just preparing for this, like trying to figure out what's going on, and I don't know if I still comprehend what's happening within this movie, and it gets even more outrageous and off the rails, really, in the
Yeah.
next one after that, Revolutions.
Oh boy. Yeah, this this one is definitely all over the place. Like just it's like they were trying to figure out what type of movie they wanted to do based off of the first one, because the
Yeah.
first one seemed pretty linear. Like
Hmm.
it was not as confusing, but it's by the end you were like, okay, I feel like I understood what happened in this movie. You get
Hmm.
to this one, you're all over the place. You're like sweating. This movie is horny. This movie
Yeah.
is just batshit crazy. And then there's like then there's a bunch of lull moments where you're like, oh, they could have easily cut that out.
Hmm. Yeah, it's like you were saying, like before we got on here, is like this movie's over like almost 2 hours and 20 minutes. Like it didn't need to be
Hmm.
that long at all. Like you said, that this movie is just it's so bloated. Like it goes to so many different places. It's not like it's just one plot point throughout the whole thing. It goes one thing after another, and it's like you kind of lose track of everything that's going on, and it introduces so many new characters into
So
the
many.
not other than just like the trio that Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity, but you get to introduce to like people on Zion. You actually get to see
Right.
Zion, like where everybody lives, like the humans now, like within like the core of the earth, I guess. But it really goes out and tries to like develop this whole world within the Matrix. I mean, in the first one, you kind of just had it. It was very like you're focused on them and this ship. You kind of hear about their homeworld a little bit, but it's mainly just
Yeah.
about them and finding Neo and everything. It's very self-contained in a way. But yeah, these two, because they were filmed back to back, because the next one comes out, Matrix Revolutions came out 6 months afterwards. I mean, they shoved so much
Wild.
stuff in both of them, in this one and in the next one,
Yeah.
and I like this one way more than I do the third one, the final part of
Oh,
the
yay.
trilogy. But I mean, it's very mixed. I mean, some people hate this movie just because of how different it is from the original. But I mean, it came out at a time I was like 9 going on 10, and I didn't get to see the original when this one was coming out. So as this was coming out, I was old enough and I was like, all right, I got to watch the first one finally. And everything was Matrix at this time when Matrix Reloaded was coming out. It was huge. Like, there was toys, posters, everywhere you went, it was like Matrix shit.
Oh
And
yeah,
to me,
games.
as games, yeah, Enter the Matrix came out a day before the
Yeah,
movie
I played the
dropped.
shit out of that game.
Yeah, I mean that
That
came
was a
out, and
great
not
game.
only that, it was a tie-in. Like
Yeah.
the events in Enter the Matrix where you follow like Jada Pinkett's character and like her pal Ghost, that
Hmm.
like the story of that is going on parallel to Reloaded. So I mean, I don't really remember too much of the game, but it is pretty interesting. They did that, and then they had like the Animatrix, which is like
Yep.
all these different like studios that have like these different stories set within the Matrix universe. And from what I remember, there's a couple different one of those that kind of connect into Reloaded as well. So it's like there's so much different things connected to the second and third movie in this trilogy. And it's like, how is anybody supposed to even like not
Follow
only
along.
yeah, watch all this stuff, but like process it because it's just information overload at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
But
But
yeah,
there are people
Matrix.
out there who are just so invested in this franchise where they are so well versed in all the terminology and all the lore, and I'm just like, sure, good for
Yeah.
you.
I mean, that's what I'm saying is like I've been watching them since they came out, and like I'm still trying to comprehend and still trying to figure it out. I don't know how people must be like watching this all the time, going on Reddit, dissecting everything, like trying to
Oh
figure
yeah.
like every little thing. But like at 9 or 10 years old, this was the coolest shit around. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
wasn't really there for like the story as much. For like you're following everything. It was like all about the action set pieces, the cool ass kung fu and guns and everything. It was awesome. So I mean, it was right up my alley at the time, and now like all these years later, it's like a lot of it is cool, yes, but it's like it's just too much. And I mean, you definitely could have. I mean, since you filmed them back to back, you could have spread some of this stuff out a little bit
Yeah.
more.
I don't understand why it's one of those things. Was it the Wachowskis who decided to do that, or was it Warner Brothers who wanted them to do that?
Hmm.
Why do you need to do that? Why do you need to do back-to-back filming? Like, I understand Lord of the Rings did it,
Yeah.
so and those are widely successful, and maybe that's kind of another motivation to do this, but it was just too much for, even though this was a 2.5 hour movie, I feel like it was just so much just useless stuff
Yeah, and
that
it's
could have
more so
easily been spread
stuff,
out.
and it's a lot of stuff is not even setting up for what's coming in this movie. It's like, oh, this is some stuff that'll probably come up in the third part eventually. Like some of the
Right.
stuff you learn here isn't even part of the movie. Like you don't need this information right
No.
now. But like, yeah, I mean, other than them, like the Wachowskis, they wrote and directed these two, but they also like wrote and made over an hour's worth of footage for Enter the Matrix as well. So it's like,
Mhm.
and they wrote a couple of sections of the Animatrix. So it's like, why would you film these back to back if you're already working on so much other stuff? That means you're kind of rushing and you're just kind of jamming everything all together and
Yeah.
hoping it works out for the better. And it's like, I think at the time, people were fine with it, especially Reloaded. I think the reception around Reloaded was really good. But when that
Mhm.
like Revolutions came out, or Revelations, whatever, it didn't really do great. I mean, the box office was there, but the reception of it, like people were just like, why would we go this route? Like you went
Right.
so
What are we
far away
doing?
from what made the original Matrix great. And it's like, what happened? But yeah, this movie, of course, just like the original Matrix, is directed by the Wachowskis. The budget for this was 150 million, raked in 741 million. This was made a ton of money. This was huge at the time. Of course, you got Keanu Reeves, Lawrence Fishburne, Carrie Ann Moss, Hugo Weaving's back. Jada Pinkett is in the movie. She's not like in there too much, but she plays a decent role, a prominent role in
Yeah.
like in the story. And then just you got Monica Bellucci in there. She's not a huge
Oh,
role, but she's great as ever in this.
she's amazing.
Yeah, she's great. But this takes place 6 months after the first one. I don't even remember them saying that in the movie. I
Nope.
actually figured that out just by reading up on it. This takes place 6 months after the movie. There's even a throwaway line at one point in the movie about like how many people they've freed from like the pods and all that. It's just such a throwaway line. Or it's like that's the kind of stuff I would like to know about. Like what happened in
Right.
between the time period or what you guys were doing. It's like
Yeah, that's what this movie should have been. It should have been the in between, and then the third movie should have been everything on Zion.
yeah, exactly. But like you're spending way too much time in Zion in this. It's
Yep.
like that obviously you know that like the threat of the Sentinels are there. They're coming for Zion, but
Yeah.
like you don't need to be spending like a half hour of the movie on Zion having a crazy dance like sweaty orgy and then a
That
sex scene with
scene went
Neo and
on for
Trinity.
too long.
Way too long.
Way too long.
And I just remember watching it as a kid, just like so confused. Like, this is the
Are we watching
Matrix?
the Matrix?
Whereas, like, I guess in the first one, you had like the weird, like, BDSM type club that they go to, but that's only in there for
Yeah.
like not even 5 minutes. Like, that's such a
Yeah.
short part of that. But like, this scene it goes on for a while.
It's such a weird transition because it's Morpheus, giving this, hoorah speech, which is terrible, by the way. It's such an unmotivating speech. I was like, what are we even doing here? And then it just immediately, everybody's just hopping up and down and gyrating on each other, and Neo and Trinity are freaking boning. I'm
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? What is going on? This is
Did
the
I?
Matrix.
Am I watching the right movie? Did I put something else on?
Confused.
But just some kind of like backstory about like kind of the making the movie and stuff here quick. Keanu Reeves, famously, I mean, it's been reported, over the years that he didn't take a share of the ticket sales, and due to the fear of them not making the budget back, they were afraid that this wasn't going to do well when it was coming out. And he also donated most of his salary to the production crew because
Mhm.
I guess from what I remember, I'm paraphrasing, but the quote is like, "I can live off the movies I make for the rest of my life. Like, I don't need this money right now." Like, they they're getting by. They do a ton of work. Like you see how much work goes into this movie, even
Oh
though
yeah,
how dated some of the stuff looks into it. A ton of work went into it. But so I mean,
absolutely.
he wanted to give back to the crew, and I mean, Keanu Reeves, he's still that dude. I mean, you hear about it,
Yeah.
stories of like the John Wick movies and everything.
Mm.
During the highway scene, which takes up another big chunk of the end of the movie, they couldn't actually film it on a real highway. You're not allowed to do that kind of thing. So they actually built like a 1.5-mile highway on like a Navy base somewhere, and they actually filmed there for a while, and then they ended up destroying everything once it was done. They were like, we don't want anything left around here. And as far as like the sets as well, it's interesting when they were done filming everything, they took down the sets and then like they donated them and they recycled them, and they actually like were used to build like housing in Mexico somewhere, I guess, which
Oh,
is pretty
very
interesting.
cool.
So like imagine like your house being built like out of like the Matrix like sets.
That's so cool.
During the theatrical release, because we talked about the Enter the Matrix, this was something very interesting I didn't even know about. But during the theatrical release, on the highway scene, if you don't notice it, there's billboards as they're passing. I guess if you went to the movies and saw this, they had cheat codes for Enter the Matrix on those billboards
I
that you could
do
pay
remember
attention
hearing
to.
about this, and I think I actually I must have got, I don't remember, it was one of the gaming magazines that had an article that actually put the codes in the magazine.
Oh,
And I
okay.
remember
That
that
makes
because, like I
sense.
said, I played a lot of Enter the Matrix. It was probably the most Matrix material I had ever consumed was that game because it was just so cool. I could have
Yeah.
cared less about the movies. It was like,
Yeah.
this game is awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, they also had like The Path of Neo that came out a couple years
Yep.
after, and it's like pretty much does the whole trilogy. Plus, they add some
Yeah.
stuff in there as well. And it's like, it goes way out, way crazier than the movies do as well. But that's a story for another time as well. But yeah, they actually like removed the cheat codes for the home video release. They actually put like fake advertisements and stuff whenever
Yeah.
they moved it to Blu-ray and DVD and VHS and
Yeah.
stuff. Apparently, everybody got hurt during the making of this movie. Like pretty much the whole main cast of the movie. So Carrie Ann Moss, doing stunt work when she was training, broke her leg, and like and that was like a couple weeks into her training, so that sidelined her for a while. Keanu Reeves had like a foot injury, which he was in a cast for a while. He wasn't able to work for a minute. Lawrence Fishburne broke his arm while training for the movie, and Hugo Weaving, while he was filming, apparently like slipped a disc in his neck. So it's like
What?
everybody literally got hurt during this movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, they must have had some good insurance there at WB, whoever made this film.
You're right.
The training that they all had to go through took 6 months. So I mean, Keanu Reeves, I mean, with John Wick and everything now, he's used to that kind of shit. He's training all the
Oh yeah.
time. But I mean, 6 months for not only him but like Lawrence Fishburne, who's probably not used to that kind of thing, and then Carrie Ann
Right.
Moss, like that's a lot to go through.
Oh yeah.
Not only just for this, but also another movie. If you're filming them back to back, that's got to be like rough on the body.
Oh yeah.
The last couple things I had here, the Agent Smith fight, which is probably one of the bigger, most famous set pieces of the movie, where he's just fighting like 80 different agents, and that's where some of the most atrocious like CGI is that just aged absolutely
Yeah.
poorly, absolutely terribly.
Some Polar Express CGI in
It's a
in
little
that
worse
scene.
than that too.
I mean, it did come out before the Polar Express, but I every time I would see them, like the shower, he's like floating in the air, and it shows like the panning around. I was like,
Mhm.
"Ooh, man,
Yeah,
that looks like Tom Hanks right there."
it's to Enter the Matrix. They just used like the same studio that made the game to do
Oh,
like the CG.
I was like, "Oof." I get this is 20 years old, but yikes.
Yeah, but that apparently took like 27 days to film just that scene alone. Where normally like 27 days you could film a whole movie in 27
Yeah.
days. But,
Yeah.
but this is just one fight scene they had to do. And a lot of it was CG, which is pretty weird though too.
Yeah, that is weird.
Jet Li and Michelle Yeoh were offered to play Seraph, which is like the bodyguard for the Oracle, who Neo
Oh,
has
okay.
to fight before he takes him to the Oracle. Apparently like Michelle Yeoh and and Jet Li were up for the role, which like that would have been crazy. Like if one of those, like Jet
that'd
Li,
been
I
really
could
cool.
definitely see, but Michelle Yeoh, I mean, what was she in around that time? Wasn't it like was it Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or
Crouching,
something
yeah, I think that might have came out a couple
around
years
that time?
before, right? Or 2001 was it? Or
Somewhere
maybe
around this.
2000. I think is when that came out.
Yeah,
I
but
don't
that
know.
was huge when that came
That was
out.
huge.
That was huge.
That was what put her. I mean, she's been acting since the early 90s. I think maybe even
Mhm.
late 80s. But that is the movie that kind of like put her on the map. So that's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it would have been cool to see her in this spot,
Who was
like
the
actually
actor who
like
played that
fighting
guy?
Neo.
I didn't look him up.
Ah, man, I didn't have it written down. 1 second, because we gotta give him props.
Yeah, that was probably my favorite fight, and it's like the smallest fight.
Yeah, that's easily like one of the smallest fight, but they're like fighting across those tables and everything. It's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and he just stops. He's just like, well.
He's like, nope.
I had to make sure you were not a threat to the Oracle.
Yeah, I could have just told you. He's like, nope. Yeah, you have to fight someone to see who they really are.
Yep.
Colin Chow. So shout out to Colin Chow, man. You did a great job in this movie.
Yeah, let's
I
see.
believe
He was in.
I believe he's in
Yeah.
part 3 as well a little bit.
He was in. Just a lot of Chinese works.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured. I mean, I figured he had like a background in like martial arts or kung fu or something like that. Yeah, the last bit of thing, like casting rumors I've had here, the role was offered the architect that we talked about. Probably the most confusing part of the movie is the architect. That role was offered to Sean Connery originally, and
yeah.
Sean Connery read it and famously was like, "I have no clue what's going on here. I don't understand this. I can't do this." He's like,
I don't
"Sorry."
even think it would have worked. I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
I could have taken him in that role.
Taken him
I think
seriously.
the guy that I mean, even though this character is confusing as all hell, I think the guy they cast was good. I love his voice.
Yeah.
And how he's just kind of one
Stern,
tone the whole time.
stern
and
demeanor.
And he's just
Mhm.
like, listen, you either got to do this or you kill the entire human race. And he just says it in one tone. You're just like, damn. To be honest, as confusing as it was, I loved that scene, even though I think it goes on a little too long, like most scenes in this movie. I love it because he's like talking to Neo, and I just love how all the Neos on the TV are reacting in different ways.
Different
like,
reactions and stuff.
like, I love that one where he's just
I'm gonna have to put it in the
flip
video.
it
There
out.
is like a video I saw a while ago of just like them filming his reactions, and it's just him
that's so
standing
good.
in a room by himself, just like screaming and swearing and like saying
So
like "fuck
good.
you" and just like doing all those different interactions and everything. It's
gotta
pretty
look
funny
that
to
up.
see standalone.
That's so funny.
fucking wall! You old white prick! I'll smash this place to fucking bits! You fucking dead! Fuck you! And
But yeah, it would have been weird because, like you said, there's like a theme. There's a couple different things that kind of travel throughout this movie. And one of those is in that scene where it's like, you don't know if he's telling you the truth or not. You can't believe this guy. And it's the same way with the Oracle. When he's talking with the Oracle, she's like, you never know. Like, you don't know if you can trust me. You just gotta make your own choice. And I mean, that's the thing that's through the Matrix Reloaded, and every one of these movies is like, it's all about like choice, like a human choice. Is it destiny? Is it fate? Or is it like your actual choice? But that comes up a couple different times, as well as, oh, nobody is gonna believe what Morpheus believes. Like, there's always gonna be people that doesn't believe Morpheus, and they drill that into your brain the whole movie. Is like, some people don't believe everything you believe Morpheus.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't like the direction they brought Morpheus, the direction they put him in. I feel the way that he was portrayed in the original was like he was this like top dog. Like he is this guy that everybody worships, which you see inklings of that in this movie, especially in that orgy cave scene. When he's given the speech, the counselor there wants him to talk, and people believe. There are the people who believe, but like the whole commander he has like a riff with
Locke,
I don't like that guy. I
Yeah.
don't like the fact that they was trying to like Jada Pinkett Smith's character trying to like put like a rift between Morpheus and Locke because she was with Morpheus but now she's with Locke.
And it's
But
that
you
kind of
never
shit
feel that because she just goes back to Morpheus, and I'm like, what
Immediately.
was the point of this guy?
It's like that. All that whole shit could have been cut out. We could have saved so much time because of this.
It's like
But
somebody
you're
is just like those 2 sheets on the script. Did you just not read it? Like that's 10 minutes, so you could have shaved off this thing.
But you're right, though. It really comes off in this movie as like, is Morpheus just crazy? Is he just like because like you said in the first one, you feel like he's that guy that everybody's following. Like he's the leader of the revolution. He's a leader of like going against these machines. Where it's like he's not really. I mean, people look up to him, but like he's not like the spokesman for anybody, or he's not like he's not one of the counselors or like the leader like Locke is or anything. It's like I mean, people listen to him. I guess, I mean, he has a good reputation. Like, people like him in the higher-ups. Like, the people in the council like him for a reason. But, like, it seems like a lot of other people just, like, think he's a crazy person. because he's always just going on about the prophecy and the one. It's like, it's going to happen.
That's the thing. It's just, this really has a Christian undertone to it where, Neo is Jesus. I mean...
Yeah, they lay it on thick at Psi when they go back to Scion.
Oh, it's
like the
so
people,
unnecessary.
like, in the groups giving them gifts. Like,
help me, my daughter is on this shit. Like,
look over them for me. It's like, he's full Jesus right now.
Yeah, and Morpheus is clearly just one of his prophets, trying to spread the good word of the one. But that you have your believers and you have the people who are just think you're cuckoo. But yeah, I think that was put on a little too thick. I didn't like the whole thing. I understand like he's the one, so like he's the one who's going to try to save, Zion and try to. Is the ultimate goal to destroy the Matrix?
Well, the ultimate goal is to stop the machines. I get
right.
It's just to destroy the machines. But I don't know. They never really say whether they want to stop the Matrix or not.
Well, because the Matrix is created by the architect, and clearly the architect is evil.
Yeah, you assume so.
I mean, he created the agents, right? Like, he created the Smiths.
Yeah, created everything. But then you find out through the movie that there's, like, rogue programs that are doing their own thing. Yeah. Like, the dude that
it's
you find
just
out.
Smith because of the last movie, right?
Well, yeah, but the other dude, what the fuck's his name? The guy that's married to Monica Bellucci. Like, the guy that's holding the key. He's, like, a rogue program that's kind of controlling things as well. So it's like... And that's what he's, like, the confusing stuff with the architect. He's like, there's these rogue programs, and then like Neo's an anomaly that's just like not supposed to happen. But then again, this has happened 5 times previously. Like there's been 5 other ones. Yeah. And this has all happened like 5 times before. It's like, what the fuck, man? Just talking about it.
I don't know what's going on, man.
But with that said, let's just hop right into it, man. We're talking about it enough. Let's hop into it. Just like the first Matrix, you have an opening with Trinity just trying to escape these fucking agents. And this time doesn't really go well. She just dives out that window. Product of its time, the slow-mo, what was it?
This doesn't look bad. This actually looks pretty good.
Bullet time is what it's called.
Bullet time.
Yeah. But she's just falling backwards out of that building, and then she ends up getting shot and just crashes into the car and everything. But then it's like a dream.
We don't see the end result, do we? In the beginning,
you get a quick. Yeah, she like slams into that car after she gets shot. Okay. Yeah,
I wasn't sure if it cut after a certain point. I must have just.
Well, you see her like she flies off with that motorcycle, and the motorcycle blows up the guard station,
which is really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean it's a cool way to start the movie. The CG looks fine in the beginning here. Yeah. It's really when they're doing CG with people is where it looks pretty bad.
Yeah, and I've always said anytime I would talk about a movie with like early 90s and early 2000s films with CG, they'll always look better in the dark. Because it's easier to hide sketchy CG in the dark than it is in the day.
Where this scene is in the dark, but like some of the fight scenes later is all in open daylight, and that's where it's like, all right, this just looks like a video game, or just like they look like clay a little bit. It just looks so weird.
I was ready to pick up my PlayStation controller, and I was like,
it's like, do I get to play this part of the movie?
Is this the cutscene's over, right?
That part in the Path of Neo where you play that, it's just the actual movie. You're just playing. It looks like the game. Then it cuts to like she like answers the calls as I'm in, and that's whenever she gets chased by the agent and gets shot. Turns out she wakes up, it's just a dream. Neo is also cannot sleep. He's just awake. He has trouble sleeping at nights.
Well, Neo has the dream, right? He wakes up from that nightmare because that's the nightmare he's having, right?
He does later. He has that. He sees the vision later. But yeah, at the beginning, it's just Trinity. She sees her own death in her dream.
I didn't know. I wasn't sure if she had seen the vision too. I thought it was Neo who woke up initially to be like, oh, because then he talks about it later with the Oracle.
I think it would have worked better if it would have kept, if it was just Neo that saw it. Because
I agree.
Trinity doesn't even really like mention it after that anytime in the movie. Like you see, she wakes up from her dream, and it's obviously like, but she never mentions it. She just, and then she questions why Neo wants her to stay behind later, and it's like, well, you had the dream, you should know why. Like,
Exactly.
what do you mean? But he's going through his own thing where he's like, why am I here? What am I, what is my purpose? Like, what am
Please,
I'm
please
the
do
one.
that voice every time.
I'm the one, but what am I supposed to do? And that's another thing through the movie is like they keep asking him, like at Zion, they're like, I don't know what you're here for, but I mean, you'll find your purpose eventually.
Yeah.
And it's like at the end, you think he has a purpose through the movie, and then by the end, you're like, well, what is he supposed to do now? You don't know what his purpose is. Like, it just kind of resets back at the end of the movie. It's like we're back kind of at square one now. Like they have a meeting in the Matrix. It's not even in real life. They actually have to go into the Matrix to meet with their other crew members of these ships and everything. And I don't remember them saying this in the first movie, but apparently to jack into the Matrix, you have to be out on the ship somewhere. I guess. If anybody in the comments knows why this is, tell me, because I've clearly missed it in all these movies.
I don't like it.
But every time they talk about having to go into the Matrix, that's why they leave the ship behind, is because they have to wait to hear from the Oracle. And the reason they leave a ship behind is, I guess, the only way to go into Matrix is if you're out in a ship, flying around. You can't do it from Zion for some reason. Maybe that'll lure the Sentinels to Zion. I don't know.
Either the Sentinels or it, just in case someone were to get through, like Smith gets through later.
Yeah, maybe it's easy. It would be easy to track them if they did it directly from where they were living. I don't know. But the point of the meeting is pretty much to say about the threat of the Sentinels coming to Zion. There's like 250,000 Sentinels digging through the surface of the Earth and, going straight for Zion. They're having a harder time finding like secure lines now since the ending of the original Matrix. So, I mean, it's harder for them to get around without running into different agents. And they said like the agents are even like a little different now. They're like they don't really go into why they're different, but they're just like, I guess, a little faster, a little quicker, a little stronger. I'm not sure. But even in that first fight scene with the agents, Neo's like, oh, this is different.
Yeah. Well, at first you're just like, oh, that's not Hugo Weaving. But then you realize that his version was destroyed or something. And so they have like this new look to him. And he's like the rogue.
Yeah, because at the end of the Matrix, Neo like dives into his body and like blows, like destroys him from inside. So I guess by doing that, it like freed Agent Smith from his programming, and now he's like a rogue program, and he can do whatever he wants.
He can
reprogram. He can
agents.
Exactly. He can take over other agents and duplicate himself, and he's even stronger now. And even like thanks Neo for it eventually, but now he wants what they want and everything. He wants the power. So it's like he's not even the main threat of this movie, really. I mean, he's set up for the part. This is another thing that's set up for part 3 is Agent Smith and everything. I mean, he does have that fight scene, but a lot of that is set up for part 3, especially with the ending and everything. But we'll get to that. This is where like Morpheus, like, all right, they want us to call back. The Locke's calling them all the ships back because he wants all the ships there to defend Zion if they need to. Yep. Morpheus is like, we need at least one ship to stay behind because the Oracle's going to contact us with what the fuck to do next. And you're like, well, we can't do that. That's breaking rules and stuff. We can't do that. We're going to get reprimanded. And Morpheus is like, I'll take the rap, whatever, man.
Right.
And that's like the first line is like, well, not everybody believes what you believe, man. Like, what if we don't believe in the one? What if there's another way to do this? What if we just have to fight the Sentinels? Where he's like, I forget the exact quote. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but he was just like, wouldn't you rather die trying to do something that could save us instead of doing nothing? And it's like, I mean, you could look at that from both sides too. Like, right. But what if fighting them works more? And like the prophecy isn't true. Like, but yeah, exactly. But what if the prophecy is true? Then you wouldn't have done nothing. It's like, it's both ways, man. Like,
what the hell?
But the Morpheus's logic in this one isn't nearly as tight as the first one, especially like in that speech he has. There's like, we want you to assure the people that everything's going to be fine. He's like, we're going to be fine because we've held them off for like 100 years. And he's like, okay, well, just because we held them off before doesn't mean that they're not going to come back in bigger numbers and try to kill us. Yeah. Like, we're not going to be able to hold them off all the time. but that's his
We
reason.
are Zion. We will survive. I'm like, oh boy,
oh,
good
great.
one.
That makes us feel better from the impending doom.
Generic speech. Here you go.
That's the thing, and it's like not much about the original Matrix is generic. Everything is pretty completely unique, and it's like it's sad to see them going this route and just doing some of that generic bullshit. And a lot of people's
stuff.
Yeah, all the Zion stuff that's really where my problems with the movie is. Like, I really don't care much about the Zion stuff. Like, I care about the Matrix, what's going on in there and everything. It's like you guys try to focus on that and more so than the Zion.
Yeah.
The agents come, you actually get a tiny little fight scene with them because Neo goes up. He like senses they're there immediately as soon as like the car pulls up. He goes up and he's just like, that's a little tiny fight scene, but it's so cool because he's just like fighting them with like one hand and stuff. Like he's so fast. And even like Link, who's like the guy watching over the Matrix, he's like, holy shit, like Neo's got it covered. Like, don't worry about Neo, he's fine.
Yeah.
But this is where a lot of people's problems with the movie lies, is because Neo is fucking Superman, who nothing can hurt him. Neo's not going to have any problems if he's in the Matrix. Like, if there's a problem, he's going to solve it. He's going to be fast enough to get there to save somebody. He's going to be strong enough to beat somebody if he has to. He's got all the problems solved.
Yeah, I don't like this flying, him being able to fly. I was like, this is unnecessary. And I mean, I like that they mention it. The fact is like, hey, what's Neo doing? Oh, he's just doing his Superman thing.
Doing a Superman
like,
thing.
I'm glad he's calling that out, but it's still just unnecessary for this character. Like, it's cool, like, to have him invulnerable when he's fighting. Like, he's able to match all their moves, and he can do cool wall running and flips and stuff. But, like, do we really need him to fly now?
No, we did.
And he's also got the Force, too. Like, what is happening with this character? We just took this character who was able to do cool things, and we're just like, let's just stuff him full of steroids, all right?
Yeah.
And then just...
Because there's really no reason for him to fly other than just to have it come back later in the movie, whenever someone at the very end.
Unnecessary.
It's like, you could have found another way about it. Like, you don't need him to fly. I feel like that even though these people can do outrageous things within the Matrix, flying's a little too far. We didn't need flying in the Matrix. Like, come on, man.
I mean, it's a little later, but I love when he does it after the Smith fight, and the Smiths just look up, just like,
yeah.
What the hell is that? Just walk away.
He could do that? They go back to Zion, and this is where you get all the Zion bullshit. Morpheus is confronted by Locke. You get the backstory that like Niobe used to be with Morpheus, and now she's with Locke, and it's all that bullshit we don't need to know.
Is it a relationship, or
it doesn't go far enough to even know? My guess is
you never get told.
Yeah, that's my guess. Is that it was like a relationship type thing. Another thing that didn't need to be added, when Neo flew off, he went to like the Oracle's apartment and nobody was there, and it was like that the whole purpose of the conversation was like, we're waiting to hear from the Oracle. It was like, why would you go looking for her if you're waiting to hear from her? It's like, why would you go there? So it's like, that's another, like, it was a short scene. It was like, you don't need that in there. But yeah, at Zion, Neo has like a groupie now. I guess that he didn't even say he rescued, and this dude doesn't even come up at all later in the movie.
Where did he come from? Was he in the first movie?
No, he wasn't.
Why is he here?
Exactly.
What is the point? I felt exactly the same as Neo. This kid starts running up to him, and he's like,
oh, fuck.
Oh man, here he comes again. Like, well, who are you?
My guess is it's just a kid that got freed. Like, he was just someone that was in a pod. It was one of the people they freed. And Neo even tells him, like, you freed yourself, man. I didn't do anything. Yeah. Like, he's like, you don't need that kid in there.
Why was he written in this movie?
Yeah. You would have been fine with the 20 people that are following him like it's Jesus giving them gifts. That would have been fine. You don't need a groupie just like tagging on. It's like, Neo. I'm almost old enough to join a ship. Wonder what ship I'm going to join. The Nebuchadnezzar. It's like, oh, great. I'm sick of this guy, and I haven't even seen him before.
Yeah.
Morpheus gets like reprimanded by Locke, saying that like he needs all the ships. And he's like, well, and this is just where it comes back again, where he's like, well, we have we're waiting for the Oracle. He's like, Morpheus, not everybody believes in your theories and your prophecies. And it's like, bro, we get this. You don't need to keep beating it into our head that people don't believe Morpheus. Like, we get it by now.
I recognize this guy from he played like the general in Man of Steel.
Yeah, I knew I recognized him
and then
from
he
somewhere.
eventually turns into Martian Manhunter
Yeah, he is the
in
dude that plays
the
Martian
Zack Snyder
Manhunter.
Justice League.
You get to meet the counselor who doesn't have like that big of a part in the movie, but he's just saying that like
Another character is like, he probably didn't need to be in this one. He probably could have been in the next one.
he probably could have just they probably could have made him and Locke one character as like a counselor and
Exactly.
like leader of the defense or something.
But the
Like,
problem was, one of them was against the stuff, and the other one was for the stuff. And so, like,
yeah.
well, we have to have two characters for that.
Yeah, and then 5 other counselors on the panel, and then we get to that scene.
Yes.
It's like, what the fuck? This is
Are
too
we
much.
Are we going to see these guys in the next one? Maybe.
But yeah, like he's just saying, like the time is, we got to tell everybody, we got to tell the people, and they're kind of arguing over like what information should we tell them, like how much of the truth should we tell the people.
Truth.
And Morpheus is just like, I'm cool with Morpheus, but I wasn't cool with him here. Where he's like, we're gonna be completely fine. The Sentinels aren't gonna even get anywhere near us. Like,
Yeah.
just, the Neo's gonna save us, man. Like, I am fully confident we'll be fine. And that's where like the Always Sunny credits hit in. Is like, Zion will not be fine.
You gotta have the music play too.
No one will panic, because there is nothing to fear. That army will never reach the gates of Zion.
Oh,
All right, everybody, time for an orgy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess Trinity and Neo don't have alone time on the ship when they're out
Oh
there,
my
because every single
God.
time that they are alone together, they're just all over each other, making
Oh
out
my
with each other.
Lord.
Like, and then as soon as they get the chance, when like they have like everybody's paying attention to Morpheus in the speech, they're up there fucking and doing their thing, while the
This
whole
is-
sweaty orgy dance party is going on.
This is the most choreographed like sex scene I've ever seen, where it was like the cameraman was just like perfectly making sure you don't see a single thing until the very last shot where it zooms out. You're like, that's Keanu Reeves' ass. That's all you get, everybody.
That was
A
it.
little
That's all
cheat
you're
from
gonna get.
Keanu.
It was very tasteful. It was very tastefully done.
But it's like, again, why did we need a close-up shot and then a little bit farther back and then a little farther? I'm like, this
being intercut
isn't
with
it, guys.
everybody dancing at the orgy
Grinding on
party
each
and
other,
grinding,
sweating.
titties
Yeah.
everywhere because everybody's just wet and you can see through their shirts. It's just like, what is this? Is Zion?
What
This
is-
is what it
this
is. I
is
can
the-
see why they want to save it now, but come on, we don't need to see
What
this.
is going on here, man?
None of this was in the first Matrix.
No.
But then you get kind of a side plot where you get to know Link a little bit, and
Yep.
you get to meet Link's wife, who you find out is like who was the sister of Dozer and Tank from the first Matrix. Like Dozer and like Tank was the dude that he was the operator in the first Matrix, but due to some contract disputes and stuff, they didn't bring him back for this one. He wanted some money, and they was like, nah, we'll find somebody else. So they got Link, and I guess he's like the brother-in-law. He's married to like their sister or whatever, and he says that he made Tank a promise that he has to fly like the Nebuchadnezzar and be the operator, and she's pissed off because the Nebuchadnezzar's the one that's out there the longest and doesn't come back home a lot. So she like, obviously they have a family, she misses them there and everything, but like,
Right.
it's cool to see like, I guess, some depth to some of these characters, but it would have been more impactful if it was Tank, because like, I don't know who the fuck Link is. You're introducing a brand new character and like some backstory that like and you don't really see much of him through the rest of the movie. So like,
No.
it's cool,
I didn't
I
mind
guess,
him.
but it wasn't needed for like the story.
Yeah, I didn't mind his character. I just didn't care for him and I didn't care for like the reunion with him and his wife because of the fact he wasn't in the first one and we just met him 5 minutes before. And so we're supposed to feel something like, oh
Exactly.
man, that sucks. They're gone for so long. But then all you see is them have this conversation. Then they're at the sweaty orgy and
Grinding
then
up on each other.
Yeah, and then they're back and he's getting ready to go because they got the message from the Oracle and they're gone. And they're just like, well, that could have been cut out of this.
Yeah.
Another 10 minutes gone.
Another 10 minutes gone. And this is weird because I never remember this part, but it clicked when I watched it. after the sex scene with Neo and Trinity, my guess is that this is the only reason why they had this in the movie, and I have no reason why this happened. But apparently, as soon as Neo comes, that's when he gets the vision of Trinity dying, and that's why he's laying there and he's like, "Oh no." But it's like,
Didn't even think of that.
like immediately, like as soon as they finish, that's when he gets like the flash of her dying. It was like as soon as he comes, that's like that's a hell of a way to figure out that she made
That's the secret, everybody. That's how Neo gets all the visions.
And she's like,
he's gotta come.
She's like, "Are you all right?" He's like, "Oh, fine, don't worry." Wouldn't that be a twist to the movie? He's like,
Wow.
"What's gonna happen, Neo?" He's like, "I don't know. I'll be back in 5 minutes."
Okay,
comes back all sweaty. I know what's gonna happen, guys.
Oh no.
Oh no. But yeah, Neo can't sleep like he was established before, so he goes out and hangs out, and he runs into like the counselor who obviously like, he can't sleep either, so he just wanders around Zion. He talks to Neo about how he goes to engineering because he likes to he likes to think of it as like they need machines to live, but there's also machines trying to kill them at the same time. So he like
we can't destroy them all.
Yeah, but we also need them to live as well. So it's like you're kind of just stuck in that middle. Yet there's a balance somewhere, but you're kind of stuck in that rock and a hard place.
Yeah, he talks about how they have the chance to destroy them all, like very easily, but then they'd have to explain why their air isn't pure anymore, why they have no food, why they have no electricity. So like there's
because he has that whole speech about like, I may not know how things work, but I understand why they're there and what they do. Like he says, like this machine that like recycles and purifies our water. I have no clue how it works or how it was made, but I understand why it's there and what it's meant to do, type thing. And it's like so like everything is just twisted around into enigmas and questions. The whole movie, the whole series, really, just with like this, and then with the architect, and literally every like the Oracle, everybody that Neo and everybody comes in contact with is like, let me just answer your question with 10 more questions, and then you could figure this out eventually. Figure it out yourself, Neo. That's the main that's the main answer
but
for
I want
everything.
the answers too, because I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I'm more clueless than Neo is right now. Please tell me.
I have my guide. I don't know what page I'm supposed to be on.
They should have just had like a scene after the architect, just like, you have to read it. Like, this is exactly what this means, so we could proceed. Out of nowhere, you get a weird scene of just two randos in the Matrix just running from agents, and like one picks up the phone, he gets, jacked out of the line and everything. The other one, he gets fucking taken over by Agent Smith.
Yeah,
like,
and this is something that doesn't play into this movie, but maybe one other scene. But guess what? It's probably going to play a pretty good part into the next one. Maybe.
Damn near the whole fucking movie.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying, is like, you don't need all this stuff in this movie. I mean, you would like to end a second part of a trilogy with a cliffhanger, but the way they do it is so fucking cliche, and like, even down to the music, which we'll get to. Like, bum, bum, bum.
Oh, yeah.
Come
I like
on.
the music of this movie. I think the music plays really well. Like,
for the fighting,
into the fight scenes and stuff like that. But yeah, when it's like that, like old school 50s horror movie or thriller, just like cues, you're just like, what
doesn't fit with
what year
anything
are we in
else.
Now? What is going on?
It doesn't fit with anything else.
No.
But yeah, one of the guys gets, for the lack of a better term, just possessed or controlled by agents, reprogrammed by Agent Smith, because they were in the Matrix.
Yep.
But that carries over into real life, apparently, because when he gets jacked out of the line, Agent Smith is still in the dude's body. Where it's like, I understand it from in the Matrix, but like, when you leave, how wouldn't it just be the same dude? Because I guess you'd be reprogramming his whole mind then. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you or explain to you what the hell. To be honest, I forgot about it after a while until it would show another scene with this dude. I was like, oh yeah, that's.
I was just gonna say it doesn't matter anyway. You're not. It doesn't come into play in this movie really at all. So.
Like, remember that useless kid character that we introduced in this movie for no reason? Yeah, he's going to play into this other useless character that plays into nothing in this movie because he's going to try to stab Neo and
like. But the point of that scene, other than the dude getting possessed, was because they had that little chip that card
Yeah.
that was the message from the Oracle and everything.
Yep.
They had to wake Neo up. Everybody's getting ready to go. They like just got to Zion, and they had the whole orgy, everything. Everybody was starting to relax, and now everybody's got to pick up and go again to go see the Oracle.
Yeah.
But this is a different way they were going in the Matrix. I guess I don't know if it was just through that disc or whatever they gave them. I don't know if they're actually jacked in the Matrix or what. They had to be because the agents eventually. But
Show up, yeah.
Neo goes in there and he ends up running into Seraph, who we talked about a little bit ago. Yeah. And to test him out to see if he's truly the one, you have a cool fight scene in like that like dojo type area, kind of similar to like the fight between him and Morpheus in the first one when they're training. That's pretty cool little fight scene. And then he leads him right into that like park area where he talks to the Oracle, and that's where like the Oracle's like, well, I mean, you don't know if you can trust me, but I mean, you got to do what's best for you or what you think is right. And that, I mean, it's pretty much everything she's talking about is what was said in the first one, pretty much. Is like she's there to kind of guide them, and she knows what's gonna happen, but like she can't tell them what to do. It's your own free will.
Right.
She's asking her all these different questions, and then you find out. I mean, you don't find out because you pretty much assume like she is a program, and then that's really where it comes up. If she is a program within the Matrix, how can he trust her if everything else is trying to kill him and is out for them as well?
Right.
Like, what makes him? Why would he trust her? Because she's just guiding him. She even tells him like, it's weird because she's like, I can't tell you what to do. You got to make your own choices. But go find the keymaster and go to the mainframe. Go find the door with the light.
Yeah.
But yeah,
all right, fight all these really bad CG guys now. All right, go.
But yeah, Neo, she reveals like Neo must go to the mainframe, which he even says like, I've seen it in my dreams, like the door made of light. And he will have to choose whether Trinity lives or Trinity dies. And that's going to be like his big thing is like at the end of the movie is what's going to happen. And it's like the same fucking thing we had in the first movie. He's like, you got to choose between whether Morpheus lives or Morpheus dies. He's like, this is the same thing again, just in a different way. It's the same thing, but different. And there's a couple other things, especially towards the end of the movie, that is just like the end of the first one too. And it's like, why would they do this? Why would they do this again?
We want to see if people forgot.
They're going all out talking about the programs and, rogue programs. And she's saying like how like some programs break their system and you're not supposed to see like the kind of the movers and shakers of the programs, but you can see them. Some people do see them because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's pretty much what like people, whenever they see ghosts or aliens or like vampires or werewolves, stories like that, they're just people seeing the programs they're not supposed to be seeing. And it's like, that's a weird way to, I mean, it makes sense, I guess, in the Matrix. And I guess it would kind of like give you cause to believe that if you like, for the conspiracy theorists that think we live in the Matrix in real life, that's another thing that they can kind of fall behind. But like, it's interesting like thought to put into it is like, oh, maybe ghosts aren't actually like dead people. They're like the programming that we can't see in real life or something.
Right.
But yeah, you get the fucking 20-minute, 15-minute fight scene between Neo and Agent Smith. And that's where, like, right before the fight, that's where Agent Smith kind of just reveals, like, oh, I've been a different person since we've last fought, and I gotta thank you, but I mean, I gotta destroy you still because I want what you want. And that's where you learn that he's cloning all these other agents, and he has more powers, and it's a pretty dope fight scene overall, up until the pole comes out, where he uses that pole, and it goes to that terrible, I mean, I'm sure it looked fine at the time, but now
10 to 20.
It looks terrible though at this point. Like it just looks like a video game. Him just spinning around in midair, just hitting dudes are flying all over the place. The stuff that looks good is what you see as far as real action, like the actual choreographed fight stuff. Even it's so weird because it goes to that fight scene, CGI fight scene with the pole for a while, and then it cuts to like a small tiny section where it's actually like the stunt dude with the pole fighting. And I was like, that stuff's cool. And then it goes right back to the CGI again. I was like, I feel like you could have found a way to make it all somewhat practical and choreographed. I understand you want the cool shit in there, but like you could have kind of spaced it out a little bit. It didn't have to be a huge part of the fight.
Gotta do this crazy superhuman fight.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool, but it definitely hasn't aged well. At this point, he has to get to the mainframe. So he needs to get to the keymaker, who opens up the back doors through the matrix that nobody can see. And that's what gets him to the mainframe. But one catch is the Keymaster is being held prisoner by the Merovingian, who is the French dude that we talked about before. And he's like a rogue program. So it's just going from one big plot point to the next plot point to the next. And it's like before, it was like in the first one, it was all somewhat one story throughout. Where it's like this, it's like one thing after another after another. It's like
this is like plots for a TV show, and they had to cram it into a movie.
This would have worked perfectly as like a series, like The Matrix as a series. It would have worked way better than just 3 2-hour movies or whatever. Like I feel like if they wanted to reboot it, it would work way better as like an HBO series or something. It cuts back to that scene we talked about a little bit ago where Locke goes to the council and he's like, we need all the ships here. We can't be having one out there just like running around trying to like chase some prophecy or whatever. And we're like, well, Nebuchadnezzar's been gone for a little while, which it doesn't say how long they've been gone because they just left. And they're like, well, if they've been gone too long, so we got to send another ship to go get them. And he's like, that's bullshit. We need all the ships here. And they're like, well, why don't we send 2 ships now? He's like, just to fuck with the dude. And he's like, well, why don't we send 2 ships? We need 2 captains now. And that's when like the one dude volunteers. And then of course, Niobe volunteers and Locke gets pissed off because that's his girlfriend. And that's where like, she just kind of goes back to Morpheus all of a sudden.
Again, did not need to happen.
Just because that little dialogue they had before the dance orgy earlier about, like, I remember when you used to dance, Morpheus. He's like, some things never change. Like, just because of that little dialogue, they're like cool now.
Yeah,
I don't know. No,
I guess
everything moves way too fast, and there's too much for it to be moving too fast.
Yeah.
The ships are going out to find Morpheus and the Nebuchadnezzar. While that's happening, the trio of Morpheus, Neo, and Trinity go to find the Merovingian. And that's like the French dude at the restaurant. And this is the scene where like the whole point of the movie was like your own choices and everything. And like, but now his point of view is like everything is causality. It's cause and effect, that's his whole thing. And that's what he talks about. Like, I program stuff like that piece of cake over there. And it just shows this hot lady just sitting there and she eats a piece of cake and it's programmed to make her come, I guess.
It literally shows, we literally travel into her vagina through the Matrix code. And then it explodes and she just goes, well, I think I need to go to the bathroom.
It's just kind of taking you step by step. He's like, like her pupils dilate. She's getting a little bit of a sweat or whatever, and she's like acting uncomfortable. Yeah, but then it goes into that Matrix code right into her vagina. It's like, what in the world
going on here, man?
This movie is horny as hell.
Shit, this is not the same franchise. What are we doing?
That's what I'm saying. It takes it way too far.
Like, this is not even the end. This is not even we still just go on to the
like halfway through the movie at this point, and we're still don't know what the fuck's happening. Because like after all of this, he's like, well, why are you here? And he's like, well, I don't know. Like, I'm here to find the mainframe. Or he's like, no, you were here because you were told to come here. He's like, because you don't know why you're here, you got to leave. I'm not giving you anything. You got to go. Yeah. And he immediately kicks him out. And that's why Monica Bellucci like pulls him aside. Like, hey, like this dude's an asshole. Like he's been cheating on me for a while. Like, I'll help you. And I never picked up on it before, but it kind of goes into the theme of all these programs breaking their code and going off and doing what they want. Just like her, she like that's not part of her programming. I assume like her breaking code.
Bellucci, how dare you,
bruh? Like that's Monica.
That is Monica like, fucking Bellucci.
And part of the terms, like for her to help them, was she wants to know what like true love feels like again because she hasn't felt it. I mean, like I don't know if you've ever felt it because you're a machine or a program, but because it's been so long since she felt love. She wants Neo to give her a kiss and make her feel like she's Trinity, like she is loved. And it's like, I mean, Neo, go for it, dude. That's Monica Bellucci, dude. Like, I know Carrie Ann Moss is a beautiful lady, But that's Monica Bellucci, dude. You got to shoot your shot. Like if you got to take your chance.
You're gonna get what you want, if you make out. I will give you this thing you so desire if you just make out with Monica Bellucci. And just like,
Gee, let me think. Sure.
There's no thinking. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, let me
stay
think.
over there.
Okay.
This is for the fate of the world, okay? You go for it.
Trinity, I gotta do this. And like he just like gives her like a peck at first, and she's like, "Oh, I can see we're not serious. We're done here."
Yeah.
He's like, "Okay, I'm fine. Sorry." And Trinity is so like jealous. She like pulls the gun on her and everything.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Trinity, calm down. Like she's a program. Like none of this is real, Trinity.
Yeah. They
Just
could
let
literally go to the corner and bang in front of you, and it doesn't mean shit.
It
because
doesn't
it's
mean a
not
damn
real.
thing. Exactly. It doesn't mean a damn thing. Just let him make out with her a little bit, and she'll lead you right to the keymaker, which she did. She was good on the promise, took her right to him. But on the way out, they get met by the Frenchman and his guards. And this is my favorite part of the movie. This is my favorite fight of the movie is Neo just taking on all these guards in that mansion with the staircase, and there's like
it's very cool.
swords and stuff. They're flipping around. I don't know. There's not much if any CG in it. It's just like all like pretty much practical and wire work and stuff. But it looks so damn
Very
cool and it's so well choreographed. And
Yep.
like I like the part where like the dude like swings the sword and he stops it with his bare hand, and like you just see the blood dripping. And he's like, "Oh, so he can bleed, or like he is human after all."
He's just a man.
But that's a dope ass fight scene. But while that's happening, the Keymaster runs off. I keep calling him the Keymaster, but he's like the key maker. I got
Keymaker,
Ghostbuster on my fucking brain. He's the Keymaster. He's looking for the gatekeeper the whole time. That's why he's running around.
But it's only Zool.
So at the very end, they open up the mainframe. It's just Zool.
What a crossover!
We need it. We need it now. I mean, you don't
man.
really need the Ghostbusters there if Neo's there, obviously. Because Neo,
No.
he'll handle everything. But while Neo's fighting them, you got the Keymaker running away, and Neo and Morpheus and Trinity are chasing him, and they're also being followed by the twins, which is like the bodyguards of the Frenchman dude.
Yeah, and they can change to these like spirits.
Yeah, they're like albino guards with dreadlocks, and they could just turn into nothing and go through walls and everything. It's weird.
They turn into like demon ghosts because when they turn into the spirits, they get like sharp teeth and growl and like shoot off.
And they look like they got Medusa hair, the way that their dreadlocks are like they look like snakes or something. But it's like we haven't seen anything like this previously in any of these movies. Why are we seeing this now? We didn't know this could even be possible as far as like turning like invisible and going through stuff. Like we know that Neo could do some crazy shit because he's the one, but what makes these guys so special? They can go through walls and shit. Like what's so special about them? After the fight scene with Neo, he chases the Frenchman out the door. As soon as he opens up the door, he's like on top of a mountain. So he races to try to find Morpheus and Trinity. And when he gets to that door, it opens up. He's at the other side of the mountain or whatever. And he's like 500 or 600 miles away from him. Yeah. Something ridiculous. But as you've been seeing since you've run into like the Keymaker, every time they like shut a door or like use a different key, it can go to like a whole different part of the world or a different, mainframe or something. I don't know. It's wild. It's all confusing, man. There's so much shit going on in this movie. That's why I was like, I needed somebody on here to talk about this because this movie is a mess.
My brain was hurting at the end of this movie.
I watched it last night and I wish I had time to watch it today just so I could like be super fresh going into it. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that's when you go from one action set piece with Neo to the other set piece, which is like a 20-minute long just highway chase scene with Morpheus and Trinity and the Keymaker, where it starts out where it's like them in the car and the dude like floats up through the car and they're just having that little like close quarter fight in the seat with the seat belts and everything.
I felt like I was watching a Michael Bay movie when I was watching this scene.
It felt like The Island or like Transformers or something.
Yep.
But then it goes to like the other set piece where it's like Morpheus, Trinity on the motorcycle with him, and they're getting chased by agents who found them now.
Yep.
And then Morpheus is like having a standoff on a truck with a sword and like.
And he's getting his ass beat by this agent, by the way. He doesn't get a lot of hits in. He's getting tossed around.
He hasn't brushed up on his fighting at all since that first movie, because he was getting his ass kicked in the first movie by agents. He's getting his ass kicked in this movie by agents.
Yeah, it's wild.
That scene goes on for a while of them just fighting in that highway.
Long.
It's so long. And I mean,
and there's so many breaks too where you think it's going to end, where it's like you get the musical cue where you're just like, oh, this was going to be like, this is when Neo shows up. And then no, it just goes on for another 10 minutes and you're like, what?
Yeah. On the fight with the truck, Morpheus gets kicked off onto a car, and it's fucking Niobe who's there all of a sudden. That's just out of the blue there to rescue him.
Oh, she's good. All right there, Link, relax.
Where it's like, she didn't need to be there because Neo is going to be there in like 5 seconds when he didn't even need to be there in the first place either, because he shouldn't be flying.
Oh, Lord. I love it, though. She catches him on the car, and then she's like, kick his ass. I was like, no, he's getting his ass kicked. What do you mean?
He's not going to kick anybody.
Why he's here? Because he's getting his ass kicked.
I don't know why Trinity, just because she was getting chased by agents, she threw the Keymaker up onto the truck with Morpheus.
Did she throw him, or did Morpheus grab him?
Well, I think she like threw him up, and he grabbed him, but it pulled him up. But
yeah, I didn't understand that either.
You didn't need to throw him up there. Just keep him on the motorcycle.
Put him on top of a tractor trailer when he seemed to be okay at the back of that motorcycle?
While Morpheus was fighting already. So it was like, just keep him on the motorcycle and try to get out of there. Okay. Like, what are you doing? But I guess you just need to have the cool set piece of the agent taking over the other tractor trailer and having the head-on collision.
That was a cool shot.
It was a cool idea. It was a cool shot.
Until Neo shows up and grabs them both and goes up, and you're like, oh,
and just whipping them around in a circle. Just rips their arm off from.
Somebody give this effects team more money.
But it's not like he like pulled him off in the nick of time. Like, those trucks crash and they're flying in midair whenever he gets there. Like, he technically got there too late, but just before they got killed.
Lord. Yeah.
So, we have that plot point down. They had to rescue the Keymaker. That is all done with. So now we have to go into a heist movie now, apparently. They have a whole plan of getting into the mainframe. But to get into the mainframe, which is a heavily secured building with like different programming and everything, they have to shut down like 27 city blocks. And to do that, they have to blow up a power station. And while the power station's being blown up, they have to have another team at like the security checkpoint to like shut off the failsafe security. And it gives like Neo a 5-minute window to get through to the mainframe.
Yeah.
There's like 3 different movies packed into this movie. Like, I feel like that whole thing could have been a movie itself. Like them figuring out how to do this and going through the process of planning this and everything. Like, but this all takes place in like 10 minutes of them like forming this plan and getting it done. Of course, the plan doesn't go right because the Sentinels reach one of the ships and blow one of the ships up. That was part of the plan that was supposed to be taking over the security checkpoint. So before even the plan happened, we mentioned before, Neo tells Trinity, I know you would do anything for me. I want you to stay behind. I can't have you go to the Matrix. I can't tell you why, though. You just got to trust me. And she's like, okay, Neo, that's fine. I'll stay here. Even though she had the dream at the beginning of the movie where she died, she saw herself dying, she should know why he doesn't want her to go in there. But because of that team getting killed and they're not able to shut off the failsafe, of course, she's the only one that can go in there and do it. And that's where it wraps all the way back around to the beginning of the movie again. and, oh man, it's nuts. This is nuts. But nobody thought the failsafe was going to get activated once the power plant blew. She gets there in time. Morpheus and Neo and the Keymaker are going through like that hallway and get trapped by Agent Smith and all of his crew, all of his different replicants that are coming out of the doors. Which is a pretty cool fight scene because it's so like tight, and they're just like him and Morpheus are just kind of weaving underneath each other, fighting like all the agents. It's pretty cool, and the Keymaker's just going in and out of the doors trying to get around them to get to the door behind
what was going to happen to this Keymaker before it even happened. I knew exactly what was going to happen to him. It was so telegraphed.
Oh yeah, you knew it was going to happen, but like they try to like kill Morpheus too. Like they almost kill him because like they do the thing that Neo did to Agent Smith, where like pretty much trying to replicate him and turn
like
him into an
shoves his
agent.
hand in there and it like
Yeah, starts like morphing, like turning him into Venom. It looks like, or
Yeah.
something.
the T-1000s.
Yeah, and he's like,
Getting into
Neo,
it.
help me, please. Neo has to like throw these dudes off. But
Yep.
yeah, like the keymaker opens up the door and he like just grabs Morpheus and just does like a 20-foot dive.
flies.
Does the fucking Superman flies, or like the Raiden dive from Mortal Kombat through the door. But yeah, the keymaker goes to shut the door, but like every agent opens fires on him. And
Yeah.
you saw this
You knew
coming
he was
from a
gonna get
mile
killed.
away.
Yep.
But he gives him the final key. They shut the door. They get in time within the 5 minutes. Neo has to go and open the mainframe door to see what lies behind the glowing door, and no other than the architect, which is, as we mentioned, the most confusing part of this movie. And it doesn't last super long.
Nope.
It's just like this room just filled with TV monitors because he's the architect, he's the all-seer of the whole Matrix. He's the one that apparently created the Matrix originally. And as you find out, like we mentioned, this has happened 5 times previously. There has been 5 other ones, not Neos, but there's been 5 other ones that have had to go through this cycle. And I actually had to watch a video after the movie to explain what the fuck was happening in this scene, because I've seen this movie so many times and I still don't understand it. So the choice that he gives Neo at the very end, like the 2 doors, one is what he's supposed to do, which is if he goes through one door, he's supposed to, it resets the Matrix pretty much. It resets everything. There's no preventing Zion from being destroyed, from what
he
he's
said
saying.
that it was like destroyed like 6 times.
It's going to happen regardless. But if he goes through the one door, he can reboot the Matrix, and not only reboot the Matrix, but he can pick like 6 people or 5 people or whatever to just re-inhabit and, repopulate Zion and start anew. And it's just going through the process again for another time. If he goes to the other door, which is to save Trinity, the Matrix will pretty much cease to exist. It doesn't reboot at all, which pretty much will eliminate the human race altogether. Not only just the Matrix, but the human race altogether, because the humans are tied to the Matrix, and that's what's powering and operating the Matrix. So it's like, either way, Zion's going to be destroyed, but you can still keep humans and repopulate and probably go through this whole process again in another 100 years or so. So it's like, it's kind of a lose-lose situation a little bit. But he's like, I know what you're going to do, Neo. Like, I know what you're going to do. But Neo, he's like, I could do it. I know you doubt me, but I could do it. I could save her and do both. So, I mean, you automatically know he's going to save Trinity, even though she gets killed. So this is what I mentioned earlier. They do the exact same shit they did at the end of The Matrix 1, where Neo dies and she saves him with the power of love. Yep. She dies and he pretty much saves her with the power of love and his weird powers that he can just reach in through her body, pull the bullet out, and resuscitate her heart with his bare hands.
I'm not letting go. I can't. I love you too damn much. That's the power of love.
Do you like how every time he sticks his hand in, though, they have to show the Matrix code?
We spent way too much on effects enough. We can't have an actual prop of him going through Trinity. We have to just do it digitally. We can't do it like that. We can't spend more on practical effects to do this. Just like the whole coming thing with the woman. You can't have that done practically.
No.
Instant X rating.
Not be rated R.
But it's what I'm saying. There's so many plot points in this movie that have been done in the first one. And not only that, because you've done it before, it doesn't have the same impact. There's well, if nobody can die, what's the point of this? There's no real stakes. And I mean, I guess Zion can be destroyed, but I don't really have any ties to Zion. I just learned about Zion this movie. I don't really care.
Well, they mentioned it in the first one, but it was so forgettable. I completely forgot they talked about it in the original.
They should have just did something different with it instead of just rehashing the same plot points. I mean, there's 3 different stories in this that could have been a full movie. You could have had the first Matrix. You could have had this one, their mission to go get the Keymaker. The third movie could have been them on, going to the mainframe or something. They could have spread it out instead of slamming it into one movie. And it just feels too congested. He saves Trinity. You know she wasn't going to die.
Nope.
And Neo, because he talked to the architect and everything, he relays to Morpheus and them. They have 24 hours until Zion is destroyed by the Sentinels. Well, the Sentinels break through the crust. They get into Zion and they start attacking and killing everybody. They have 24 hours to do something. They don't know what they can do now because he already went to the mainframe and talked to the architect. They have no clue what they do now. And this is what I was talking about. You end back at square one at the beginning of the movie, pretty much. They don't know what to do. Neo still doesn't know what his purpose is.
Nope.
And while this is happening, the Sentinels fucking find the Nebuchadnezzar and blow up the Nebuchadnezzar, so they have to get out. So now they're without a ship now, and they're just wandering around just the open wasteland darkness of underneath Earth, I guess. And the Sentinels are coming to kill them, and you find out Neo actually has powers in real life now.
He's got the Force.
Well, it's like before in the Matrix, he was able to stop the bullets and stuff. But it's like, all right, it's the Matrix. He has powers. It makes sense. But like, is he really Jesus in real life now? He can stop the Sentinels by himself. But he must have used all of his power because instantly it puts him into a coma from what they pull him up onto the ship, the Hammer. And like, yep, he's in a coma. We don't know what happened to him. We hope he comes out soon, but there's really no timetable on it. And you get some explanation from the captain of the ship to Morpheus saying like, yeah, we don't know what happened. There was like 5 ships that were waiting on the inside for the Sentinels to come through to activate the EMP, but the EMP went off prematurely and pretty much just left the ships there for the Sentinels to destroy, just defenseless. And we have no clue why, but we found one survivor, so maybe he'll know why. And they're like, well, who's the survivor? And it's like,
oh my God.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's that guy.
It's that guy. It's the dude that Agent Smith possessed that you only saw one other time in the movie in Zion, which we neglected to mention because it didn't make any impact on the story whatsoever. It was whenever they were leaving from Zion to go see the Oracle, he like walks up to him with that knife behind his back to kill Neo, and he gets caught.
I mentioned it before because it was the kid that we didn't need in this movie who kind of breaks that up.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, other than the end, you see that dude twice in the movie. But whenever they said, oh, we found a survivor, you automatically know who it is. You know who it's going to be immediately. Yep. And like you said, I mean, we talked about, they did the most cliche 50s like cliffhanger music ever. Doesn't fit any of the music or score through the rest of this movie at all. They straight up leave you with the old dun 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 credits. To be continued.
To be concluded.
To be concluded. Not even continued. To be concluded.
And then it's immediately we get Rage Against the Machine
again.
As they start playing the credits. Yeah,
Get
and
Rage
then we
Against the
get
Machine
Rob
again.
Zombie.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you. I mean, I didn't sit through the credits, but I was just curious if they threw something. At the very, very end of the credits, they did put the trailer for like the Matrix Revolutions in there. Since they filmed it back to back, they had the trailer at the very end, so like people in theaters could see the trailer for the next one that comes out in 6 months, which is pretty cool. It's interesting because I watched it on like the 4K that I have, and at the very end when it goes to the trailer for Matrix Revolutions, the trailer for it isn't in 4K. Like they didn't bother like redoing the trailer at the end of the credits.
That's too much work. That's too much work.
It looks like DVD quality trailer.
You already own the movie. Just put the movie in.
I know, but I was like, you redid the whole rest of the movie. Why wouldn't you just do like the 2 minutes at the very end credits of the trailer? Like, come on now. But yeah, it's to be continued.
See you in 6 months, everybody. We talk about the Matrix Revolutions. I don't know what the fuck it's called.
Matrix. I have it right here.
Matrix More Confusion.
That's what it should have been called, but it's the Matrix Revolutions. We're going to be talking about that in November because that's when that one came out. So, I mean, they came out 6 months apart from each other. I am not eager to talk about the Matrix Revolutions because this is the one that, like, people say this movie's boring. I didn't think this movie was really boring. I think it flew by for me just because I was locked in trying to figure everything out. Even though I've seen this movie so many times, just because of how confusing and how much shit it puts on you through the course of 2 hours, I feel like I'm kind of piecing it together and finding new information every time I'm watching it. I don't like it nearly as much as The Matrix. There's definitely a quality drop
Oh yeah,
between the first
100%.
Matrix and this one. The only thing that really keeps this one afloat is the awesome action set pieces and the choreography and how it's filmed and stuff. I don't mind this one as much as Matrix Revolutions. The Matrix Revolutions, we'll review that when we get there, but I have a lot of problems with that one. And that's one I'm not eagerly looking to talk about the whole way through, but I didn't mind this one. I think for as much information it throws on you, it does go by pretty fast. And it doesn't take too long to go between the action set pieces. It doesn't really, other than Zion. That's really the only spot where it's like, all right, let's move the story on a little bit. We're just kind of sitting here on Zion.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah, other than that, like everything leading up to Zion and then after Zion is fine. Like they should have trimmed that down big time. But overall, I mean, like out of a buy it, rent it, or miss it, I would say rent it. I mean, I own them because I like the Matrix trilogy, but I would definitely say a rent it, where the first one is like a buy it. You should own the Matrix. Like the first one is an amazing movie. That's an amazing film as a standalone. You can watch that just by itself. You don't need part 2, part 3, and fucking part 4, which they shouldn't even ever have done. But maybe we'll get to that eventually. I'm nowhere near ready to talk about that one.
Right.
But what were your thoughts? I know we talked about the whole movie, but overall, like, what were your thoughts on the Matrix Reloaded here, man?
It just, I mean, I don't want to, I'm not going to say it's boring. It definitely wasn't boring. There was a lot of action in it, and it was just, I couldn't follow what the hell was happening. There was just too much going on. It was bloated with too many storylines, I feel like, or too many just side plots that we didn't need. And I think Zion didn't need to be part of this movie yet. I think that could have been easily a major focal point in the third one, especially the way this one ends. I feel like that's when you introduce Zion.
Spoiler alert, the third one revolves around mostly Zion.
There we go. So that means we
like,
did not need Zion at all in this movie.
Exactly. You didn't need it at all.
There was certain things like having to go get the key master or the key maker from that guy. I don't know if that was needed.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good seeing Monica Bellucci. Can never go wrong with that.
I feel like you could have had at least them talking to Zion. Like, you didn't need to have them going there and spending time there. They could have been relaying these messages over comms or something like,
yeah, exactly.
The Sentinels are coming. We have this amount of time. Like, Morpheus and Locke could have had that argument over an intercom or something. You don't need to go to the fucking Zion to do all of that stuff. This movie would have been benefited by like 2 more rewrites of the script, like 2 more drafts of the script to cut and trim some of this stuff down. It would have definitely benefited. Like, someone that read this script should have looked at the Wachowskis and be like, "Are you serious? You want to make this like both of these movies? Because both of these movies are bloated. Like the Reloaded is way more bloated than the third one, but like." What were you thinking? Like, you can't just do this. Like, if this was any earlier, like if this was like the early 90s when they tried to make this, they're like, this movie is unfilmable. We can't make this movie. We don't have the technology to do this movie right now. Oh, and like in 2003, it was like they barely had the technology to do this movie right now. It was like, if they made The Matrix Reloaded and everything now, the effects would look phenomenal. Like, all these set pieces would look absolutely amazing now. It's like, it's a product of its time. I understand it's, it's not going to age well, but I think it could have been benefited from more rewrites of the script and also just, probably making this movie later when you had more technology available to do what you wanted to do with it. But I don't know. Like you said, it's definitely way bloated than it has to be. There's so much shit into this. They should have been called Fully Loaded. Matrix Fully Loaded.
Yeah, it's a movie that if you got HBO Max, check it out because it's on HBO Max right now.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could. I don't know if I ever want to watch this again. I would rather just go back rewatch the first one a bunch of times because that one was really fun and really well made, and it made a lot more sense and things were better explained, even though it still had its confusing parts, but.
Yeah, but it benefits from a rewatch. Where like if you rewatch The Matrix, you pretty much get it. You understand what's going on after the second time. Or it's like this one, you could watch it like 7 times and you're still like, what the hell's going on?
That's why I don't like sequels that, especially when they jump in time. Like, yeah, it was only 6 months, but clearly shit was going on during that 6-month
Yeah.
break that you're just going to introduce to me now with no explanation. What? Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
It's so weird. Like it seems like they just rushed. Like you said at the
absolutely.
beginning of the review. I don't know if it was the Wachowskis that planned to do this back to back, or if it was like Warner Brothers that told him like, "Hey, let's just do what Peter Jackson's doing right now," or like, I don't know, because I feel like it definitely would have been benefited by just taking their time. I mean, it was a couple years since the
100%.
first one, so I mean, like. You shouldn't have been trying to write 2 movies at one time while doing this. But like I try to tell everybody that hasn't seen The Matrix, I think as a whole the trilogy is fine enough to watch at least once. Like if you haven't seen them, I would say definitely watch them at least once, and then like you said, then watch The Matrix, the first one, again if you have to. You don't really need to watch 2 and 3, and especially not 4. I've only seen the 4th one time, and I'm not planning to go back to that anytime soon because it was just not needed at all. At all. It was just like, oh, Keanu's like, oh, John Wick's huge. Maybe I could come back with another Matrix or something. And it wasn't. It was like half the Wachowskis came back and did it. It wasn't even both of them. So it was like half the heart was in it. Any other thoughts on The Matrix Reloaded before we go?
Oh no, I think I'm all matrixed out tonight.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot to process. So if anybody that's watching this that understands The Matrix fully, feel free to comment in the comments below about like what everything means. What does architect mean? Or like explain all this to us. I would love to know, and especially I would love to know your opinions on The Matrix. Not just Reloaded, but the trilogy as a whole. I would love to know everyone's opinions, what you like or what you dislike about them. Before we go here, though, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you here, Brett?
You can find my little podcast, Dissect That Film, we're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We're on all the podcast services. Just type in Dissect That Film. We're on YouTube if you want to watch our video form of our podcast. And we're on Patreon at patreon.com/Dissect That Film.
Awesome. And I will have all of your links here in the description below. So if anybody wants to go check it out, which you absolutely 100% should, go check it out, subscribe, and go to all of the podcasting platforms and make sure to leave a good review on his channel and everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I want to thank you so much for coming on here and joining me and trying to, dive into this mess of a movie, man. Because I know, I thought about it afterwards. I was like, man, I shouldn't have done this to him. Like how huge this movie is.
It's not the worst thing I've ever watched. So I never go into, when it comes to like guests being on somebody else's show and they want me to watch a movie, I don't care. It's fun. It's fun, especially it's a movie that I've never seen before. Yeah. I've only heard about it, seen clips from it and stuff, but I've never actually got to experience it from beginning to end. So it's always fun to at least experience it once. I always tell people, at least see a movie once to get to form your own opinion on something. Because it's very easy to just be like, oh, that's trash. I'm never going to see that. Nah, just, there are movies you can look at and be like, ew. Yeah, I'm probably going to stay away from that. But like you can't really form an opinion on that, so you shouldn't say anything about it. But to be able to, I like getting to watch movies for the first time and forming an opinion on it. And my opinion on this is it's a mess.
It is a mess. It's definitely not. I wouldn't say it's a terrible movie by any means.
No.
I mean, I probably will rewatch it eventually just because I like the first 2 here. But like, you're right. I mean, as much as I enjoy parts of it, I can recognize how messy and sloppy and disjointed it is at times. But I think what helps it is also the directing, cinematography, music, and the decent performances from them. I mean, the acting is pretty well done throughout the whole thing as well. Absolutely. They're well-made movies. Just the story is way too convoluted and messy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, for anybody that hasn't already, make sure to like, share, and subscribe here. Make sure to go check us out on Instagram and Twitter at CinemaTripViews. Also, wherever we get your podcasts, just like Dissect That Film, we're pretty much available everywhere. Drop in and leave us a good review there. Once again, man, I want to thank you very much for hopping on the podcast here and talking about The Matrix with me, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a blast being here.
Yeah, man. And hopefully we can do it again here soon and do a movie that's not The Matrix. We can talk about whatever movie you want to talk about. We're almost done with The Matrix, man. We don't have to, I promise, we don't have to, it's not going to haunt you anymore. You don't have to see any more Matrix.
It's okay. I'll just take a shower.
But yeah, once again, thanks, man, for joining me here. And I'll see everybody else next week.